Welcome, good evening. This is Rebel Without a Limit. We're so glad to be back here, and I can't wait to chat with two of tonight's very, very special guests who've given us an hour of their time, and we have decided to go live with this, so please do bear with us. We have got everything working. I know when I first launched this as a live, we did have some glitches, but we've ironed them out, and we're excited to bring another live episode to you and give you access to Mr. Michael Jack Russell and Miss Vicky Cooke. So they will be joining me in the studio very, very soon. Before they do, I just want to remind you that please do say hello. It's a live episode for a reason, and we want you to join in on the chat. So make sure you give us your name, tell us where you're tuning in from, and also send us your messages. So I will keep this comments box open. So I let our guests say hello, you let them know you're saying hello, and send your questions into the chat. All right, so I'm Haley Coxon. Welcome to Rebel Without a Limit. This is episode 4, and I have Mr. Michael Jack Russell joining me and Miss Vicky Cooke. So Jack, we saw at the Isle of Man TT last year making history. So he raced in every single class. I mean, if that's not a rebel without a limit, I don't know what is. And this year he's setting out to do exactly the same thing. Last year he didn't manage to finish every race. This year he's looking to finish every single race. So that would be 10 races in total. God knows how many laps that is around this 37.75 mile track. So we'll see if he knows the total of that. Hopefully he does. And then he's got the great Vicky Cooke joining him as well as passenger. So let's bring them into the studio, shall we? Mr. Michael Jack Russell, welcome and good evening.
Hello, how are you, Haley? All good?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you very much for inviting us onto the show. It's an absolute honour to be here. Again, obviously we spent a lot of time at the TT together, and we spoke about this very briefly, but you know, I've seen the guests you've had on in the past, and it's an honour to be involved. So thanks very much for involving me. And Vicky.
Well, and Vicky as well. Yeah, we're going to bring her in as well. Can't wait to speak to Vic. Just want to touch on when I asked you to do this, Jack. You said rebel. I don't think I'm quite a rebel, but I would love to do the podcast with you. If you're not a rebel going around the Isle of Man TT course, I don't know what is.
Well, I'm certainly not a rebel. You know, if you spoke to my mother, she'd certainly say that you know, I'm a goody two shoes, never got in trouble, middle child syndrome never kicked in really. So, but yeah, no, you know, I don't think you can be a rebel actually. To be fair, to take on the TT either, you've got to have a certain sort of mindset of respect, you know, to yourself, to other competitors, and to the circuit itself. So. Rebel is in there, yes. Obviously, there's an element of danger, that speed that's involved with the TT. But realistically, from my point of view, it's all about a personal challenge to contest and to progress myself, the team. You know, this year with Vicky, you know, and just sort of further my venture into the Isle of Man that is a massive part of my life.
Incredible, and the emotions that you experienced last year were insane. The challenges that you had to face, but what an incredible setup you had. So we're going to come back to that because I want to hear more about your mindset as well going into such an event and such an epic challenge as well. But before we do go there, let's invite Miss Vicky Cooke into the studio, shall we? Good evening, Vicky.
Absolutely, yes. It's all about the Vicky.
Hi guys, how are we doing? Thank you very much for having us, Haley. It's an absolute honour to be part of this.
You're welcome. It's been great getting you guys set up. I can't wait to share more of this chat this evening. Definitely, I think we might have a few bloopers maybe popping up through there.
Not for me,
or not.
Sure, not for me. I'm not the rebel in this. You remember that?
It'll definitely be from me, Haley. I am 100% a rebel in this. So
I think
we might keep you on mig out of it.
Still going to go
Muffler as well, Vicky.
Absolutely.
Love it. Okay, so Jack, coming back to you then. We've got to touch on 2022. So I want to reverse just before that. I want to move back just before that, and just want to get to your mindset really of what on earth brought you to the decision and the mindset of, oh, you know what, I'm going to enter the Isle of Man TT, and I'm not just going to enter it in solos. I'm going to do every single solo class and get in the sidecar as well. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I'll just give you a little backstory to how I got involved with sidecars, which is pretty much the reason why I got into racing the TT with sidecars. So I've always been a fan of racing. You know, I got into motorcycling very late compared to most, and you know, so we've been involved with sort of short circuit racing and everything else. And I at these short circuit events, you'd often see the sidecars doing their bits and pieces, and I just was in awe of them. I think they're absolutely fantastic to watch. I think, you know, but we never sort of got really that close with them. You'd sort of watch from paddock hill bend as such, and they'd come sideways into it and everything else, and you'd just be like, that is absolutely mental. But you know, at that point, I was sort of, you know, mid-20s and thinking, right, you know, I want to sort of progress into nationals and everything else. And TT really was not on my radar at that point either. So we've always had a long love affair with sidecars. And it was at 2015, I think it was. I was parked next to Gary Bryant, and Gary's outfit was obviously there naked, and you know, I'd not seen a sidecar naked, you know, and it was an opportunity to sort of get that sort of expert tour of this sort of three-wheel magnificent piece of machinery in front of us, and it just sort of sparked a little bit of a flame inside us. And I just thought, you know, everything about it's bespoke. You know, you can go to Kawasaki and buy an engine or whatever, a frame. You know, sidecars, you can't do that. Everything's handmade or, you know, thought about differently between different manufacturers. And it was really interesting having a chat with Gary and Phil Hyde and everyone else. It was really impressive about, you know, how the passenger works as much as the sidecar driver, and they've got to be a team on that bike and everything else. And I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. But at that point, I was, again, not really financially in a position to delve into the sidecar racing. And I don't think anyone's ever ready to delve into any sort of racing. You just do it and bite the bullet and away you go. So it was in the back of my mind. And, you know, I spoke to Tim Reeves and a few other people I got to know through racing at TT and everything else. And I just sort of thought to myself, well, if you're going to do it, you may as well, you know, throw yourself into it and buy a sidecar and just see if you like it. If you don't, sell it and away you go. But unfortunately, I sort of got on this sidecar and it was the best thing since sliced bread. And I've never, genuinely never experienced anything like it. And if you imagine go-karting with your mates at whichever go-kart circuit you're at, it's great fun. But you imagine that at 150 miles an hour, and that's what go-karting on speed is, three-wheeling. And it's just that. So, yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. And we never anticipated taking it to the TT. Obviously, we've watched the sidecars avidly at every TT I was at as a fan. But I've broken down in a few places and watched these guys come past on practice laps, and each time they came past, you know, you watch Molly and the Birchalls and whoever. I mean, they're all absolute leading legends, and they'd come past and you could see the driver just wrestling with the bike, and you'd sort of just like, I'm going to swear it. No, I'm not going to swear, but you know, you watch it and I was like, you know, you just turn to the marshal and he'd be like, and I'd be like, and that would be the reaction. It is just mind blowing how they get around this circuit. At that point, it was never again on my cards to do it. I'm actually sort of, sound like I don't actually want to do it. But, yeah, so long story short, we bought this sidecar 2018, 19, I think it was, and instantly fell in love. And then at that point, it was a case of, right, you know what, we're going to take it to the TT. And, you know, I'm paired up with Vicky, and I think she's the best thing since sliced bread. I love her to pieces. She's the best. She's what I need in the sport, because the three-wheeling side of things is so different to solos. You've got you and a bike, and if you've got no money and you just want to go and do a track day, you stick the bike in the back of the van and you trundle off down to Brands Hatch and you do your race meeting or a track day or whatever, and it's you and a bike. The sidecar side of things, it is that third party, that third sort of mindset involved. You've got the bike doing whatever it wants to do. You're trying to control it as the driver. And then you've got this third party on the back. And in this case, in the future, it'll be Vicky. unfortunately, we didn't have that sort of longevity. I've had some fantastic passengers on, and I've loved every moment with everyone I've had on in the past, in that short sort of time doing sidecar racing. But what I need and what I've wanted is that longevity. If you look at the sort of mentality of, well, you've got to be that conjoined twins, haven't you? You've got to know what the other person's thinking. You look at the Birchalls, you look at any good pairing when they're together all the time, well, not all the time, but when they're together as a mindset with that single goal of TT or BSB or whatever they're doing racing, you're putting that together, and that's it. Once it's together, you've got that common goal, and you're working towards it as a pairing. So that's what we've needed. We need that continuity in the sport. We need to get more passengers involved. I'm not one of them. I've tried it one lap. That was enough for me, Vicky. I'll stick to the bars. But it was, we won that pairing. So we were very lucky to have French Freddie on last year, TT, and he did an absolutely sterling job, and I loved him to pieces. But looking to the future, we've got young Vicky Cooke on, and I can't wait.
And Vicky, from a mindset perspective then, just as Jack was touching on there, the trust that you have and the respect you have for each other, obviously that is huge going into racing, and specifically going into a sidecar and going into a sidecar around the Isle of Man TT course.
Yeah, definitely. It's a massive thing. I think first and foremost, probably at every stage of my racing career, it's more important that Jack and I get on off the bike. You're on the bike for such a short space of time at the TT that to get on off the bike is where it's at really, and that trust then can only build from there. I think with regards to a mindset, it's more of a case of I've got my job to do and Jack's got his job to do, and providing Jack trusts me to do my job and I trust him to do his job, then there'll be no issues. We are as one on the bike. We're not working as two separate people, but we each individually have an important job to do, and the bike doesn't get round without either of us. That is the bottom line.
And so I just want to go back a little bit with you, Vicky, as well. So there aren't many females in the sport, are there? And so tell me a little bit how you got into it and what drove you into actually go and compete in it, really, take it to a competitive level.
Probably unlike Jack, I raced as soon as I could on my 16th birthday, actually. So my stepdad, Eddie Wright, raced at the TT for 40 years, near on, with a few podiums and British championships and European championships. And that's all I wanted to do from being really young, like really, really young. And it sounds a little bit cliche, but I vividly remember being about, 8 or 9 years old, stood at Quarter Bridge with my mum, watching Ed out there, and mummy, I'm going to do that when I'm bigger, and that's how it was. And that I don't remember a period where I didn't want to do it. So as soon as I could, when I was 16, that was it. Me and my stepbrother Dougie, he was racing at the time, ironically, actually on the same bike that Jack and I were riding last season. So that was a bit of a small world, really. But yeah, off we went to Donington Park on my 16th birthday, put a bike in the van, and off we went. And it kind of progressed from there. And I raced Formula 2s for a little while, and then Ed was racing classic bikes at the time. So I was still living at home at that point, and he asked if I would passenger him on his classic bike, and I said, I'm not doing that. It's for old men. But I was still living at home, so I didn't really have much choice, to be honest. So I ended up racing the classic bikes with him, and did that for a couple of seasons, and then rode with the likes of Brian Gray and Vince Biggs, and I went to the TT in 17 with Vince, and that didn't really work out. So it knocked my confidence a little bit. I had a little bit of time out from the sport, and then tried again.
Wow. Fantastic. So the experience and the years there is, I want to touch on recovery. So when you go into these races, obviously you're going to get thrown about a little bit as a passenger. I've heard about the intense, the pressure it puts on the body and the preparation that is involved. How do you get yourself ready to race? You have all this time out in the winter as well, and getting prepared in preparation for something like the TT, or even just getting back into your race season.
I think for a passenger, it's probably a little bit different to a driver. I mean, I do joke a lot with Jack that he just sits there and twists the throttle, and actually it's me that's genuinely doing all the hard work, It is physical. There's no doubt about it. I think my training kind of lasts throughout the year. Really, it's just stepped up now. I'm really fortunate that for the last couple of years, my mentor for the TT has been Rick Long, who's an 8 times TT winner. And I'm very lucky that he's also a personal trainer as well. So I get the best of both worlds on that one. So Rick's really been helping me. But I think more importantly, it's a mindset podcast, isn't it? But it is about having that mindset to know that you can do it and know that you're going out there to be the best that you can be. And I think that speaks for everything, whether it's the training leading up to a normal race season or how that preparation changes in the weeks leading up to going to the TT. It is mostly it's about your mindset and being confident in yourself that you can do it, but also being grounded as well, I think. And there's a lot of hours spent in the gym. Don't get me wrong. There is a lot of hours spent in the gym, but you can't train for the battering that you get on the bike. The bruising that you get on the bike. Jack and I actually met in the Scott Physio tent, didn't we? There last year's PT, Jack. Yeah, I was sporting some nice bruises while Jack was just sat there getting a massage. That's the difference that we're dealing with.
Oh, I love it. Jack, you talk of battering. Yeah. We've got to go back to that.
Vicky, you didn't see it. Hayley saw it firsthand that I took a battering. She was interviewing me and I was literally using her to hold me up. So it was pretty bad.
I'll compare bruises later.
And Jack, let's go back to that. So 2022, you take a battering going in one class, never mind every single race of the event. Now, how do you prepare yourself? Because it's brutally going to be a physical challenge. So how do you get your mind in the place where you can just get on it and get focused on it?
Well, racing is 80%, 90% in the mind. And it's as simple as that. If your mind, like Vicky touched on there, if your mind is nowhere near it, you just don't get on the bike. It's as simple as that. So yes, physically, racing 1 lap round there, racing 6 laps around there on a superbike, it is extremely physically demanding. I'm sure everyone can appreciate that. But mentally, you've got to be 110%. And that's the hardest thing for me, jumping from one bike to the other. You've got braking markers to change. You've got peeling points to change. You've got, with the sidecar, you've got 3 extra foot to think about and a few other bits and pieces going on. So mentally, I'd say it's got to be as hard. It's got to be as hard. And I had stern words with myself after the first sidecar race. I had to sort of really take a step back and sort of have a chat with myself and say, look, do you know what? Is this what you want to do? Because, I have to say it knocked me for 6. I've been through sort of accidents in the past, unfortunately, and we've lost riders, as we know it's a dangerous sport. But on a solo bike, it's you in a bike, and you're sort of itching to really just get back on. I had, a third party to think about, and I took that responsibility very, very seriously. So I did have to have a serious word with myself. As you know, it took a bit of a toll on myself. But you've got to put yourself in that mindset. There's routines I go through before I go out racing. You put the left boot on before the right, all that stupid stuff that to anyone else watching, you just think, all right, it's just a weird superstition. But it's little things like that, an hour, 2 hours before the race, you're eating something that's in the right place at the right time, or drinking something that's in the right place at the right time. But it's just another way of getting that mindset ready to know what you're doing. And it's a really weird sort of situation to be in, because you go sort of short circuit racing at British, national, international level, whatever you're doing. Yes, there's obviously elements of risk at it, but I think that sort of whole build up to the TT is a little bit special and a little bit different. It's not something that anyone can do. It's not something that everyone wants to do. And that's what, in some respects, makes it that niche market of, I don't consider myself a brave person. I don't consider myself, what's the word for it? Sort of, bravado and all that good stuff. Yes, I have a laugh with the lads at work and all the rest of it. But, when it comes to the push of the shove, I'm just a plain Jane in the background. I'll do what I need to do to sort of carry on with my life how I want to do it. When it comes to racing, I think that's what makes me a little bit different, is that I sort of take that plain Jane mentality and and sort of turn it on my head, on its head, sorry, where you meet people and they're full of bravado, they're full of confidence, they talk a good game, but when it comes to, would you go around the TT course? Oh, not a chance, no way, and it is that sort of what makes, me different to someone else, but then it's also what makes Peter Hickman, Dean Harrison, Glenn Irwin, all those guys that push that boundary every lap, every second of that lap. What makes them that little bit more different to me, and it's all about that sort of, that mentality taken to the extreme. And I think in some respects, James Hillier explained it quite well in his sort of Dakar diaries, in some respects, he's like me going to the TT. When James is at the TT, he's that superstar echelons of everyone wants to be as fast as James Hillier. When he went to the Dakar, he was that sort of, he just wanted to finish. And it was that mindset of just persevering, getting through the battles, the bruises, the breaks. And that's what it's like for myself. When I was watching, I was thinking, that's actually quite, apt how sort of similar it is for myself when I took on this challenge of every race last year. It really was that mindset of I've just got to finish the races, and unfortunately it was a mechanical that put us out the last race, so we've got to try again and go for the 10. So if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I appreciate that. It is very hard physically, mentally, emotionally and financially, but we've got some good backers behind us and hopefully we can make it happen.
Incredible achievement last year, Jack, and being lucky enough to spend some time in the garage with your team, your bubble of which that you surrounded yourself with. Every single person in that garage was championing you, which of course they would be, but everyone was pulling their weight. There was a real balance of what everyone was giving into your mix and how much they were supporting each other in the process, which is key, isn't it, for your mindset and preparation going out there?
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to surround yourself with the right people. And again, I think, having Vicky and Rick along this year with Jodie and Mark and a few others involved, I think that's, for me, that's a massive confidence boost as we approach it. Even just in terms of the three-wheeling side of things, it's a massive boost. So, yes, we had, everyone literally, rooted for me throughout the team and public and everything else, and it was fantastic, and I felt like I really let everyone down, including myself, when we obviously didn't finish the senior race. As soon as that TT finished, we were obviously in talks with Vicky anyway, so there was that progression that we were going to go on into it next year and be back there again. So that was always a bonus. So from that point, we were always going to again, sort of strip everything back down and start building the foundations again from the sort of bottom up again.
And Vicky, something like the TT, Jack in his preparation was just so calm last year, being around the team, everyone was just so calm. But something like the TT, you have to have that mindset and that energy going into it, haven't you? You've got to have that cool, calm approach to an event like that. But that ripples out into general life as well. In everything that you approach, how you do one thing, you generally do everything, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think commitment is a massive part of your mindset at the TT. You've committed to doing that, and particularly on the sidecar, a little bit different to the solos, as Jack was saying. There's always someone else to think about, along with the wider team. But I take a lot of my approach from racing into everyday life, whether it's work or going to the gym. It's being committed and giving the best that you can. But as Jack said quite rightly, with surrounding yourself with the right people as well, that is a massive part of the Isle of Man TT. Again, getting on with the team. You're in a confined space for 2 weeks, and everyone has the jobs to do. Jack and I obviously we're out there doing the biggest job, but it doesn't. We don't even get to do that without the other people doing their jobs as well, and that's a big trust element. To leave the guys to work on the bikes and know that they're doing a good job. You have to 100% trust them, and you don't trust anyone if you don't get on with them, do you? So that's a huge part, and we're doing quite a bit in the background actually with a bit of the team building stuff. And I've kind of brought Jodie and Mark on board with me, who I've known for a long time, and obviously Rick's knowledge for me is invaluable. That will continue to be invaluable for me, and particularly as I progress. And want to get quicker, and I only ever want to be the best that I can be. No half measures. It's all or nothing. So.
Love it, love it. Now, just a little reminder to any viewers out there, we've got a few of you joining us live. Make sure you say hello, let us know where you're tuning in from, and fire any questions our way. So if you want to get involved in the chat, please do. So, Jack, coming back then to 2023. So as if 2022 wasn't a big enough challenge, you're coming here now. You've got the Teachers Trophy film that you were heavily featured in, and what a fantastic opportunity for you and the team to share your story, and now move into 2023 with that coverage.
Yeah, it was a great documentary. I was privileged and honoured to be a part of it. The film crew that came around did a fantastic job of making me look 10 years older than what I was, not 50 that I look. So I can't thank them enough for that. And yeah, I just, the whole sort of process of, a privateer, we were running on a shoestring budget with, it was a great effort from everyone involved. But when you look at the big scheme of things, and I think it portrayed quite nicely in the film. I think they sort of captured how physically and mentally hard it was for me. So, we're going to build from that. We've had a lot of positive, comments about it. It's been very well received. And hopefully we can build on it with that sort of pushing the echelons of the 10 race challenge that we're going to attempt this year. But like I said before, as soon as we left the TT, yes, I was deflated after the senior race, but and I did sort of feel I'd let a lot of people down as such. But as soon as we left, we were on the boat, and I was already planning what we were doing next year. So it's one of them. I think I was in touch with Vicky about 2 days after, and I was like, right, you ready for it?
It was more like 2 hours. Yeah. I'm not going to lie, Jack. It was definitely more like 2 hours. I don't even think I got back to Castletown before my phone went, I
was going to say, it wasn't long, and you're just planning again. So Vicky was obviously planning, in talks with Rick and a few other people about what to do next year, blah, blah, blah. And it's the same for us. So, yeah, we're going to build with it, and obviously look forward to working with yourself next year, which will be, always obviously a highlight of my week, just seeing that freewheeling, camera and yourself walking around and doing your bits and pieces. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there. I mean, it's going to be hard mentally. I think, we've had a chat with Sue and Vicky and Jodie and everyone else, and I know it's going to be hard. And mentally, I'm already sort of psyching myself up for it, because I think, we've got new bikes. This is all to come out in sort of near future broadcasts on the Russell Road Racing page and stuff. But we've got new bikes, we've got new sponsors, we've got a little bit of a cash injection from a few, really good people, which is great. And we're all looking forward to it. I think, like Vicky said, we've got one goal, spearheaded towards a successful safe TT. That is our end goal. So what we're going to do is build to it. And as soon as we left the island, mentally I was preparing for next year. I think 10 races, it's a big ask for anyone. And if I don't do it, I'm pretty sure I'll get slated at work for it. But I'm pretty sure they'll understand how hard it has been. But the main thing is safety, isn't it? At the end of the day, I've had a chat with Grant, who's one of the main sponsors next year, and he said, look, just do me a favour. If you are literally on death's door physically and mentally, and you've got another race to do that day, and you be honest with yourself. And I was like, yeah, of course I will. I'm just going to get on and do it. But it's one of them, isn't it? We just, if it comes to that point where we need to pull it over for safety's sake, if we're struggling with whatever, we'll be there. We want to be safe, and I want to be safe for Vicky and the team. I want them to enjoy it as much as I do.
I want to touch on, you mentioned the RAF there. So you're not only juggling prepare for TT 2023, but you've got your role in the RAF, and you're a dad, you're a family man as well. So
upstairs getting ready for bed now.
So tell us, first of all, RAF, what do your boys at the and girls at the RAF think of what you're doing?
I think they're all, they're very supportive. They're always inquisitive how we're getting on. So there's always that bravado that 2 or 3 of them are going to be quicker than me, and I'm yet to see it. But you know, if they want to prove themselves right, then fair enough. But they're all fantastic guys. You know, I've loved my career within the Air Force. I've been in coming up 21 years now. Yes, I look like I joined when I was 3 years old. Thanks very much. But you know, I've really enjoyed sort of my time in the Air Force, and it's supported my racing. So I'm looking, you know, I've only got 18 months left to do in the Air Force. What am I going to do afterwards? I'll still be racing, you know, with Vicky and Jodie and everyone else. But you know, job-wise, if anyone's got anything they want doing around the house, you know, I've got to cut some grass and paint some windows and stuff like that. But you know,
I think action men are looking for a new model, Jack. Actually, you know, that tends to be when we have our video calls. You know, whilst you're pretending to be at work. You know.
Well, that's it. You know, I'll don that uniform and do what I can. But you know, they're very supportive. I've got a very good boss who's actually a keen biker, which always makes a bit of a difference. So we're not having to fight to sort of get time off to do it. You know, I'm hoping to try and get him along this year so we can actually experience it, because he's never been. And I think the TT is one of those things you've got to go to. You know, on that bucket list, you've got to get over there and appreciate what it's all about firsthand, not just see it on TV. You've got to feel it. You've got to see it. So hopefully we'll get him across. But yeah, they're very supportive. I mean, they're always taking the mickey out of me, which is great. You know, hopefully it's all jest, but you know, I occasionally cry, but other than that, it's all good.
And what about the kids? What do they think? Do they understand what Dad's doing?
You know, that was really hard, because obviously they're at school, and you know, the wife and the kids are not there at the TT with me, and that's always been really hard, I think. But then in the same breath, I've always thought, well, if they are there, is it going to be just as hard? So, you know, I always call Naomi and the kiddies up before I go out for practice or for a race. You know, then again, that's part of my ritual of getting ready. And it's actually thinking back, you know, TT sort of side of things. It's a massive mental barrier to get past that, because we all know that sort of the dangers involved with it. I know it could be the last time I ever speak to Naomi and the kiddies. And it is hard, you know, I do it on my own, and I think to myself, do you know what, this is, you know, I'm thinking about now, and it is hard. So, you know, that's another stepping stone to get through mentally. But as soon as I get that sort of, you know, love you bye from the missus and the kiddies, you know, and to be fair, they're so young, they don't sort of know the dangers of it, let's face it. And it's just, you know, if I get a hello off either, I'm impressed. You know, normally it's like well, I'm speaking to you. Okay, see you later. You know, once I get that sort of done and dusted, you know, your mind can just, that's it. You know, your mindset's there straight away. As soon as that phone goes down, you know, at that point, I've already been on the spin bike for half an hour. I'm already sweating my nuts off. So as soon as that phone call goes down, that's it. I'm ready to get my gear on. Just about to do my walk up to the top end, you know, see the team, find out what's going on, have a look around the course conditions, all that good stuff, and wait for Gary's tannoy. So, you know, it's a big part of it. It's a hard part to get over, I have to say. You know, I love my family to pieces, 110%. That's always never in doubt. But with or without them, I'd always be racing. It is unfortunately one of those selfish sports that we do, and you're 110%, and no one really understands that mindset other than other racers.
It's interesting, isn't it? Some races really wouldn't go anywhere without their family, and they want it around them, but some it really supports them not to have their family there. It's interesting, isn't it? You just got to do whatever you feel is true to you and the experience that you want to have. So Vicky, how about you? Who do you like to bring when you're going to go racing to support you?
To be honest, I've had probably a bit of a mix, really. I've been racing when I've had the wrong people around me, and then racing when the right people have been there as well. And you know, for years and years, considering how young I was when I started racing, I didn't want my mum anywhere near me, and she never came to my first few race meetings, you know, because I love my mum to bits, but she's very mumsy, and you know, saying the wrong thing at the wrong time is normally pretty apt for a mum. And it's difficult to explain, but once you get into that mindset, you know, you are very focused, and someone saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. It can quite affect you. But I think this year's TT or 2022, it's probably a struggle in itself with the things that were going on with the team and everything else. But having the likes of Rick there, Jodie there, my mum, my stepdad Eddie, and my sister were all on the island, but not around me. And I think that worked really well. I knew that they were there if they needed me, but otherwise I was kind of happy to go on my own. And I'm not one for big gestures. A quick text from my mum to say love you before we walk up the road, and hug the team. And then as soon as my helmet, or as soon as my earplugs go in, to be honest, that's it. I don't want to talk to anyone now. And if you're talking to me, it's because there's a problem. Otherwise I don't want to know. And I think that's quite difficult. And that probably is where you need the right people around you. We've had experiences where I've had some people there, and you're putting your earplugs in, they're pointing something out, and it might be 5, 6, 7, 8 bikes down the road, and it might be someone walking around with a stupid t-shirt on. And at that point, you don't want to know. All you're focused on is going down Glen Crutchery Road. And I think from the moment my helmet goes on, I don't take my focus off Glen Crutchery Road. Not interested in what's going on around me.
Mm. Great. We've got Andy Fenton here, has joined us. Said hello, my lovelies. Good evening, Andy.
Hi,
Andy. Hello. Great guys. Well, fantastic chats. I think you've been very well behaved, to be honest.
We're not that rebel, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
It's Vicky giving it all the big licks, but I knew she'd be quieter than that.
That is literally it. Yeah, well, it'd be rude, wouldn't it, Jack? It's Hayley's podcast, not ours. So
Stop it.
If it was you hosting it, it'd be completely different. You'd have been rinsed 30 seconds, isn't it?
Genuinely, with me, if it was my broadcast, it wouldn't happen, because I can't even turn the phone on, let alone
I know.
Work a studio, Hayley.
So I didn't actually realise, Hayley, when I agreed to be, when Jack and I were speaking at the TT, and then decided to pair up, that I actually became Jack's PA as well. It's a genuine thing. It is a genuine thing.
And you do an all right job at it. You've got a bit of, yeah.
She's trying.
Wait a bit.
Yeah. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah. Love it. I wish I'd recorded the test.
I'm glad you didn't. But thank you ever so much for having us on, Hayley. I hope it's been a little bit of an insight to.
Yeah, I've loved it. I've loved it. It's an absolute pleasure, and it's very special to have some time with you guys, and just definitely the insight, but to really just speak to you before you really get on your mission for 2023 as well. I really appreciate your time. I've got 2 more questions for both of you before we sign this podcast off, and it's obviously mindset related. So the first one, so we'll start with ladies first. We'll start with Vicky, and then we'll go to Jack.
I thought you were going to say Jack if he's lady.
On weekend.
So Vicky, 3 words that you would use to describe a limitless mindset.
I think dedication. If you're not dedicated in what you want to do, then that you might as well stop. And there's lots of roads where it's a little bit bumpy, and sometimes you don't always succeed. But if you're dedicated, then it'll come eventually. I think power. It does give you a little bit of power once you open your mind and you set it to something. It does give you that power, and that spreads probably throughout everything then that you'll do. And determination. I don't think. Particularly where the TT is concerned and where racing is concerned in general, if you're not determined that you're going to be the best that you can be, then you shouldn't be racing.
Love it. And Jack, yourself, 3 words that you would describe.
Can I not just use what Vicky just said? She took my answer.
See, Hayley, I'm going to let you into a secret. So I said to him on the podcast, "What's the 3 words?" And he was like, "What's yours?" And I was like, "Shut up." I'm not providing you with my answers. So, and that was it.
Homework.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, yeah.
Literally, because it is, Vicky is literally bang on. You've got to be dedicated and all that good stuff. But my 3 words that I would use for my mindset is perseverance. When I get into, you've got so many hurdles to get past and sort of crawl over under to get to the Isle of Man to get racing. You know, we've still got 2 or 3 race meetings before we take on the TT this year. You know, so we've got to persevere. We've got certain things, obstacles, you know, machinery issues, etc. And there's always something, you know, no matter how brilliantly everything's going one day, it only takes a very small thing to go wrong and it can really set people back. So you've got to have perseverance, which sort of leads kind of into the second one I've got written down, which is stubbornness. So for me, stubbornness, you know, people say I can't do what I'm going to do. And I tell you what, if they say I can't do it, I'm going to do it. And that is for me, I think, a big one. So it doesn't matter whether I've got a budget of £3 million or 30 quid, I'll do it to the best of my ability on that day. And the last one is a bit of a dreamer. You know, I grew up without motorcycles, but I've had an affiliation or a long lost love affair with motorcycles ever since my first memories of seeing a motorcycle out the back of the car window. I was infatuated. And I've dreamt ever since that moment. I've dreamt, and I've thought to myself, one day I'll ride a bike. Never thought I was going to race a bike. I just wanted to ride one, and I got to ride one when I was sort of 20-year-old, and I thought, you know what, that is absolutely fantastic. And it just, you know, it set that sort of that was a dream come true. But then that dream kept building, and I just dreamt about doing a track day, and then dreamt about racing. And it's annoying because when I go to a race meeting, I don't sleep the night before because I'm so excited about getting on a motorcycle. So when it comes to the TT, I can't switch off either. So I sort of lay in bed knowing that I need to go to sleep, and I can't because I'm so excited. And even now, think about it, my heart's starting to go now. It's just that dream of fantastic. So, you know, for me, perseverance, stubbornness, and being a bit of a boyish charm.
I love it.
Were you too busy not sleeping at Cadwell Park, Jack, when you forgot to bring any clothes to wear and ended up wandering around in my clothes?
I was so excited to get there. I just turned up. That was me. I was just there.
That is not even a joke either. He literally turned up at Cadwell Park in the clothes that he was wearing, and asked to borrow some clothes off me for the rest of the weekend. So,
because all you need is leathers and a helmet. Then you go race it. That's it. Okay.
I'd like to see the pictures of what clothes you gave him.
Oh no, Hayley. Honestly, they need to be censored. It was quite embarrassing to be fair.
Brilliant. And guys, thank you so much for that. That was fantastic. I just got one more question then. So Vicky, how would you define then a limitless mindset?
I think for me, having a limitless mindset is realizing your potential. Again, I think it goes back to almost borderline. It's a little bit dangerous because when you do realize your potential, there's no stopping you. Literally no stopping you. I think probably I've learned that more in the last 8 months since last year's TT than I ever have done. That sometimes you get a few bumps in the road, but that potential is always there. And when you realize it and you acknowledge it, then you've literally got nothing to stop you.
Amazing. And Jack, how would you define a limitless mindset?
Well, it sort of sums it up in the question, I guess. You know, whatever obstacles you come to, like I said before, you've just got to become that. You've got to have that mindset to overcome anything. And again, it goes back to the dream a bit. You know, if you don't have a dream, if you don't have something you're going to work towards, then you're sort of restricting yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally. So you've just got to have that mentality to just sort of put yourself out there, go past the norm. It doesn't matter whether someone says you can or can't do it. If you're going to say you're going to do it yourself without any doubts, you're going to do it. It's just a question of when and how. So, you know, it's a bit of a crap answer. I do apologise, Hayley. I did rehearse it.
No, it's great.
I just think, you know, it's all about.
It's getting me jacked up. It's great.
I tell you what, Jack,
that's all we wanted.
Don't be giving me pre-race talks, will we, at the TT? Because, you know,
It was great.
When you get your earplugs in, I know not to speak to you.
That's it, mate. Yeah, there's no point. I'm just going to wander around with my earplugs permanently in for 2 weeks, mate.
Brilliant. Well, that'll be a quiet TT for me. Thanks very much.
See, now we're coming to the end, Hayley. I'm feeling brave now, you know.
She's had a Monster Energy drink, haven't you? You can tell.
No,
Great.
not today.
Well, listen, guys, thanks again. Really, really appreciate your time, and best of luck in your preparation for TT 2023. I can't wait to see what you guys do together, achieve together. I know it's going to be great things, and yourself, Jack, with all of those 10 races that you're committing to, just simply incredible. You made history last year, and you're definitely going to be making it again this year, and with your superb sidekick and amazing passenger right there, Miss Vicky Cooke.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Hayley.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Take
for having me
care.
on.
Thanks so much, guys. Thank
you. Cheers.
Well, thank you, guys. A few of you joined us there for the live. I'm Hayley Coxon, and this was Rebel Without a Limit podcast, your limitless mindset podcast, sharing stories and techniques to support you in living with a limitless mind. So if you do have any friends that you know this will support or maybe inspire or entertain simply, do tag them in, share, like, and subscribe to the channel, which will mean every notification for any piece of content that's getting uploaded, you will not miss. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for joining us. I'm Hayley Coxon, and this was Rebel Without a Limit.